They drain you, manipulate you, twist your words, leave you questioning your own sanity. And yet, you keep asking yourself, are they really toxic, or am I just too sensitive? But Stoicism doesn't deal in emotional fog. It deals in clarity. It teaches you to see things as they are, not as you wish them to be. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. And so you begin, not with judgment, but with observation. You strip away the drama, the guilt, the emotional noise. You look at the facts. Do they respect your boundaries? Do they listen when you speak? Do they celebrate your growth, or resent it? Toxicity, the Stoics would say, is not a label, it's a pattern. It's behavior that consistently violates virtue. It's manipulation disguised as care. It's control masked as concern. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But here's the Stoic twist. You don't need to hate them. You don't need to rage, to retaliate, to demonize. You simply need to recognize. Epictetus teaches, when someone acts poorly, they are not evil, they are mistaken. And that changes everything. Because now you're not dealing with a monster, you're dealing with a confused soul. Someone ruled by impulse, ego, fear. Someone who may never see their own chaos. And that's okay. Because your job is not to fix them. Your job is to protect your peace. You begin to detach, not from compassion, but from illusion. You stop hoping they'll change. You stop explaining your worth. You stop shrinking to fit their comfort. You start observing. You start journaling. You start asking, what does this relationship cost me? What does it teach me? What does it reveal about me? And the answers come, not in thunder, but in whispers. It teaches you where your boundaries are weak, where your self-worth is outsourced, where your clarity is clouded. And in that awareness, you grow. You begin to see that recognizing toxicity is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of courage. It's the moment you choose truth over comfort, clarity over chaos, peace over performance. You no longer need to justify your distance. You no longer need to explain your silence. You no longer need to defend your decision. You simply walk away, not with bitterness, but with grace. You walk away because you've seen the pattern, because you've felt the drain, because you've chosen virtue. The Stoics teach that the wise person does not react, they respond. And your response is calm, clear, final. You do not slam doors, you close them quietly. You do not burn bridges, you simply stop crossing them. You do not curse their name, you bless your own path. And as you walk forward, you carry no hatred, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the clarity. You carry the Stoic truth that recognizing toxicity is not about labeling others, it's about liberating yourself. You carry the wisdom of Seneca, who said, "He who is brave is free." And you are free, not because they changed, but because you did. You are free because you chose to see clearly, to act wisely, to live virtuously. You are free, Shubham, because you chose to recognize and walk away. They lie. They manipulate. They twist your kindness into weakness. And every time they do, you feel the urge to fix them, to explain, to prove, to rescue. But Stoicism teaches you that this urge is a trap built on the illusion of control. Epictetus reminds us, some things are up to us and some are not. And the behavior of toxic people? That's not up to you. Their choices, their chaos, their cruelty, that's their domain. Yours is your response. Yours is your clarity. Yours is your peace. And so you begin to let go, not of compassion, but of control. You stop trying to change them. You stop trying to make them see. You stop trying to rewrite their story. You start writing your own. You realize that every moment spent trying to fix someone who refuses to grow is a moment stolen from your own evolution. You begin to ask, why do I need them to change? What am I afraid of if they don't? And the answers come, not in thunder, but in whispers. You're afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of being blamed, afraid of being alone. But Stoicism teaches you that fear is a distortion of reason, that clarity begins when illusion ends. You begin to see that your need to control is rooted in ego, not virtue. You want to be the hero, the healer, the savior. But the Stoics would say, save yourself first. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. And so you turn inward. You stop chasing their approval. You stop reacting to their chaos. You stop waiting for their change. You start cultivating your own virtue. You journal each day, what did I try to control today? What did it cost me? And slowly the fog lifts. You begin to see that letting go is not weakness, it's wisdom. That walking away is not abandonment, it's alignment. That silence is not surrender, it's strategy. You begin to live with clarity, not because they changed, but because you did. You no longer argue with their delusions. You no longer defend your truth. You no longer beg for respect. You simply observe. You simply choose. You simply walk. And in that walking you find peace. You find the peace of someone who knows what's theirs and what's not. You find the peace of someone who no longer clings to chaos. You find the peace of someone who has traded control for clarity. The Stoics teach that freedom is found in acceptance, not in domination. That strength is found in detachment, not in obsession. That peace is found in virtue, not in validation. And you live by that truth. You are no longer the person who tried to fix them. You are the person who fixed yourself. You are no longer the rescuer, you are the philosopher. You are no longer the prisoner of their behavior, you are the master of your own. And as you move forward, you carry no guilt, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the Stoic truth, that control is an illusion, and letting go is liberation. You carry the wisdom of Epictetus, who said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And you are free, not because they changed, but because you stopped trying to make them. You are free because you chose clarity over chaos, reason over reaction, peace over performance. You are free, Shubham, because you let go and rose. They provoke you. They bait you. They twist your silence into guilt and your distance into betrayal. And every time you try to step back, they pull you in, through drama, through guilt, through manipulation. But Stoicism teaches you a different kind of strength, the strength to detach, not with bitterness, but with brilliance. Not to punish, but to preserve. Not to escape, but to elevate. Seneca reminds us, associate with those who make you better. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve. And you realize, not everyone deserves your presence. Not everyone earns your energy. Not everyone belongs in your circle. You begin to see detachment not as cruelty, but as clarity. You are not abandoning them. You are returning to yourself. You are not rejecting them. You are protecting your peace. You are not punishing them. You are prioritizing your virtue. The Stoics teach that emotional entanglement is a form of slavery. Slavery to impulse, to ego, to illusion. But detachment is freedom. Freedom to observe without absorbing. Freedom to care without caring. Freedom to walk away without rage. You begin to practice apatheia, the Stoic state of emotional clarity. You no longer react, you reflect. You no longer chase, you choose. You no longer explain, you embody. You journal each day, What drained me today? What did I allow? What will I release? And slowly your soul becomes lighter. You begin to see that detachment is not the absence of love. It is the presence of wisdom. You can love someone and still leave. You can forgive someone and still protect yourself. You can understand someone and still refuse to engage. You begin to curate your life, not with judgment, but with discernment. You choose conversations that nourish, not deplete. You choose environments that elevate, not erode. You choose relationships that reflect your values, not violate them. And in that choosing you find peace. You no longer feel guilty for stepping back. You no longer feel obligated to explain your silence. You no longer feel responsible for their reactions. You are responsible only for your own virtue. Marcus Aurelius teaches, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. And you live by that truth. You walk through the world with quiet strength, not reactive, but resolute. You speak with intention, not to please, but to express. You act with precision, not to impress, but to align. You are no longer the person who was pulled into chaos. You are the person who chose clarity. You are no longer the emotional sponge. You are the stoic flame. You are no longer the scattered soul. You are the centered warrior. And as you move forward, you carry no bitterness, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the stoic truth that detachment is not abandonment, it is alignment. That silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. That walking away is not cruelty, it is clarity. You carry the wisdom of Epictetus, who said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. And you are no longer complicit. You are conscious. You are calm. You are free. You are free, Shubham, because you chose to detach, not with bitterness, but with brilliance. They cross the line. Again and again. They invade your peace, dismiss your needs, twist your silence into submission. And for too long, you let it happen. You rationalize. You minimize. You tell yourself it's not worth the fight. But Stoicism doesn't ask you to fight. It asks you to define. To define what is yours and what is not. To define what you will allow and what you will not. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do. And so you begin, not with rage but with reason. You begin to build boundaries, not as walls of bitterness, but as gates of wisdom. You understand now that boundaries are not punishments, they are permissions. They are the permissions you give yourself to protect your energy, your time, your virtue. You begin to ask, what do I value? What do I need? What do I refuse to compromise? And the answers become your architecture. You build with clarity. You build with courage. You build with calm. The Stoics teach that virtue is the only good, and boundaries are how you preserve it. You no longer say, yes, out of guilt. You no longer say, maybe, out of fear. You no longer say nothing out of habit. You say, no, with grace, with strength, with finality. You say, no, because your peace matters. You say, no, because your time is sacred. You say, no, because your soul is not a playground for chaos. And in that, no, you find freedom. You find the freedom to walk away from manipulation. The freedom to disengage from drama. The freedom to live without apology. You journal each day, where did I compromise today? What will I protect tomorrow? And slowly your life becomes aligned. You begin to curate your relationships, not with judgment, but with discernment. You choose people who honor your boundaries, not test them. You choose conversations that elevate your clarity, not erode it. You choose environments that reflect your values, not violate them. And in that choosing you find peace. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your space. You no longer feel obligated to explain your silence. You no longer feel responsible for their discomfort. You are responsible only for your own virtue. Epictetus teaches, keep your attention focused entirely on what is truly your own concern. And your concern is your clarity. Your concern is your character. Your concern is your calm. You walk through the world with quiet strength, not reactive, but resolute. You speak with intention, not to please, but to express. You act with precision, not to impress, but to align. You are no longer the person who was invaded, you are the person who defined. You are no longer the open wound, you are the guarded flame. You are no longer the scattered soul, you are the centered warrior. And as you move forward, you carry no bitterness, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the Stoic truth, that boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges to peace. That saying no is not rejection, it is reflection. That protecting your space is not selfish, it is sacred. You carry the wisdom of Seneca, who said, no man is crushed by misfortune unless he has first been deceived by prosperity. And you are no longer deceived. You are no longer compromised. You are no longer controlled. You are free, Shubham, because you chose to define, not with anger, but with virtue. They're hurting. You can see it in their eyes, hear it in their voice, feel it in their chaos. And part of you wants to stay, to help, to heal, to carry their pain so they don't have to. But Stoicism teaches you that compassion is not martyrdom. That love without boundaries is not virtue, it's erosion. Epictetus reminds us, when someone acts poorly, they are mistaken, not evil. And you begin to see the toxic person not as a villain, but as a soul lost in confusion. You feel for them. You understand them. But you no longer absorb them. You no longer sacrifice your peace for their storms. You no longer trade your clarity for their chaos. You begin to practice sympathia, the Stoic concept of universal connection. You see them as part of the whole, part of nature, part of the human struggle. But you also see yourself. You see your needs, your values, your limits. And you honor them. You begin to ask, can I care without collapsing? Can I help without harming myself? And the answers come, not in thunder, but in whispers. You can listen without losing yourself. You can support without surrendering your soul. You can love without leaking energy. The Stoics teach that compassion must be guided by reason, not impulse. That empathy must be rooted in virtue, not guilt. That kindness must be paired with clarity, not confusion. You begin to offer what you can, and release what you cannot. You begin to speak with honesty, not to hurt, but to heal. You begin to walk away, not to abandon, but to align. You journal each day, where did I overextend today? What will I protect tomorrow? And slowly, your compassion becomes clean. It becomes calm. It becomes conscious. You no longer feel guilty for saying no. You no longer feel selfish for protecting your energy. You no longer feel cruel for choosing yourself. You understand now that self-sacrifice is not sustainable. That burning yourself to keep others warm is not noble, it's negligent. You begin to live with balance, not because they changed, but because you did. You begin to love with boundaries, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring wisely. You begin to help with discernment, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. The Stoics teach that virtue is the only good, and virtue begins with self-mastery. You are no longer the person who drowned in their pain, you are the person who learned to swim. You are no longer the emotional sponge, you are the Stoic flame. You are no longer the scattered soul, you are the centered warrior. And as you move forward, You carry no guilt, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the Stoic truth that compassion is not self-sacrifice, it is self-awareness. That love is not losing yourself, it is finding yourself in the presence of others. That helping is not absorbing, it is offering what you can and releasing what you must. You carry the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who said, "Kindness is invincible, provided it's sincere, not ironic or an act." What can the most aggressive man do if you remain kind, and if the opportunity arises, gently point out where he went wrong? And you live by that truth. You are kind, but not naive. You are compassionate, but not consumed. You are present, but not penetrated. You are free, Shubham, because you chose to care, not recklessly but wisely. They distract you, drain you, pull you into arguments, guilt trips, emotional spirals. And every time you engage, you lose something: time, clarity, peace. But Stoicism teaches you that your energy is sacred, that your attention is your most valuable currency, that your focus is your fortress. Seneca reminds us, life is long if you know how to use it. And you begin to see how much of your life has been spent reacting to chaos. How many hours you've wasted replaying their words. How many days you've lost trying to decode their behavior. How many nights you've sacrificed to emotional exhaustion. And you decide, no more. You decide to reclaim your energy, not with rage, but with reason. You begin to ask, what truly deserves my attention? What truly aligns with my values? What truly nourishes my soul? And the answers become your compass. You start saying no to drama. No to guilt. No to emotional labor that leads nowhere. You start saying yes to silence. Yes to solitude. Yes to the work that builds your soul. The Stoics teach that your prohairesis, your rational faculty, is your true power. And toxic people feed on your distraction. They thrive when you're reactive. They win when you're scattered. But you choose to center yourself. You choose to protect your mind. You choose to redirect your focus. You journal each day. Where did my energy go today? Was it aligned with my purpose? What will I choose tomorrow? And slowly your life begins to shift. You wake up with intention. You move with clarity. You speak with precision. You no longer chase closure, you create calm. You no longer seek validation, you embody virtue. You no longer explain your peace, you protect it. You begin to live like a Stoic, not armored in anger, but guided by awareness. You begin to curate your environment, not with control, but with clarity. You remove what distracts. You release what drains. You refine what remains. You begin to see that your energy is not infinite, and wasting it on chaos is a form of self-betrayal. You begin to treat your attention like a sacred flame, guarded, focused, intentional. You begin to live with rhythm, not the rhythm of reaction, but the rhythm of reason. You are no longer the person who is pulled into every storm. You are the person who walks above the waves. You are no longer the emotional sponge. You are the Stoic flame. You are no longer the scattered soul. You are the centered warrior. And as you move forward, you carry no bitterness, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the Stoic truth that your energy is your responsibility, that your focus is your freedom, that your attention is your power. You carry the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, who said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. And you live by that truth. You are no longer distracted, you are deliberate. You are no longer reactive, you are radiant. You are no longer drained, you are disciplined. You are free, Shubham, because you chose to reclaim, not with noise, but with clarity. They hurt you. They disrespected you. They made you feel small, invisible, replaceable. And for a long time, you wanted revenge. You wanted them to feel what you felt. You wanted them to see your worth. You wanted them to regret. But Stoicism teaches you that revenge is emotional slavery. That validation is a mirage. That peace is found not in being seen, but in seeing clearly. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. And you begin to understand, you don't need to win, you need to be free. You begin to see that revenge keeps you tethered to the past. That validation keeps you dependent on the very people who wounded you. That both are chains disguised as closure. And so you begin to release, not with rage, but with reason. You begin to ask, what do I truly want? Their apology or my peace? Their recognition or my freedom? And the answers come, not in thunder, but in whispers. You want to live well. You want to walk lightly. You want to rise. The Stoics teach that virtue is the only good, and revenge is not virtue. Validation is not virtue. Clarity is. Dignity is. Self-mastery is. You begin to live with quiet strength, not because they changed, but because you did. You begin to speak with calm, not because they listened, but because you no longer need them to. You begin to act with purpose, not because they're watching, but because you are. You journal each day, what am I still holding on to? But what would I gain by releasing it? And slowly the fog lifts. You begin to see that your worth is not a performance, it's a principle. That your peace is not a prize, it's a practice. That your freedom is not a gift, it's a choice. You begin to walk through the world with serenity, not because it's fair, but because you are focused. You begin to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you do. You begin to detach, not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring wisely. You begin to transcend, not because you're better, but because you're clearer. The Stoics teach that the wise person does not seek revenge, they seek alignment. That the wise person does not chase validation, they embody virtue. That the wise person does not cling to the past, they create the present. And you live by that truth. You are no longer the person who needed to be seen, you are the person who sees. You are no longer the person who needed to be heard, you are the person who speaks with intention. You are no longer the person who needed to be understood, you are the person who understands. And as you move forward, you carry no bitterness, no blame, no burden. You carry only the lesson, the strength, the serenity. You carry the Stoic truth, that revenge is noise, and virtue is silence. That validation is fleeting, and clarity is eternal. That transcendence is not forgetting, it is remembering who you are. You carry the wisdom of Epictetus, who said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And you are free, not because they apologized, but because you stopped waiting. You are free because you chose peace over performance, clarity over chaos, virtue over vengeance. You are free, Shubham, because you transcended, not with fire, but with focus.